I don't know. Tough one. What do you think about it? Next question.
Are we just gonna pick up?
What?
Are we just gonna pick up for another 10 seasons?
That would be one.
That'd be a good one.
I don't know. Honestly, can't think of it. I don't know. Fan misconceptions.
What do you get asked that you have to constantly correct?
It's been a while.
We're betting 1,000.
Well, good. I'm glad I stumped them. I asked a question they never been asked. What are the odds? Okay, Eric and Bruce, you are producers. People don't know what producers do. So, tell me, tell them.
Yeah.
Bruce, tell me what Eric's greatest contribution was to BPAS, and Eric, same question for Bruce.
Again, that's a really hard one to put into words. The thing is, we did a little bit of everything. That's what producers do, is they oversee everything from starting from the scripts to the art direction to the actual production to post-production. So Eric and I were kind of like joined at the hip on this show. There was like nothing that, I can't think of anything that we actually disagreed on, except maybe what made a good script. Because one time, Eric, when Eric and I had to start directing episodes in the middle of production because we were behind schedule, you got offered the Laughing Fish script and you didn't like it.
Right.
And you said you would rather take the Riddler script, which I didn't like, so we swapped, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that worked out.
Big disagreement on that 5-year run.
Exactly.
But producing, to be more practical, as Bruce said, it's soup to nuts, and because this was the first for both of us, we kind of learned on the job, and turned out to be a 5-year journey for both of us, and launched our substantial careers. But Bruce brought true life to the character and to the series. I learned a lot about comics. I wasn't the hardcore comics fan that Bruce was, and he certainly educated me quite a bit about all that's incredible about the comics, let alone Batman. And for my contributions, I came from more of a practical production animation background. So to be able to learn the qualities of these characters and to respect all that's been created out of the comics over the many years that it's been around has been a pleasure. But learning from Bruce, all that he brought to the table has been invaluable throughout my career. So learned a lot, and it was a great experience. Couldn't have been anywhere in my career without Batman animated.
But you guys also made it so much easier for the actors. You created such a great atmosphere for us to work in. For a lot of us, it was my first animated show, and so I was learning on the job too. But there was just such a spirit in the room every week, and the bookings were so much fun.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone wanted to do this show. Word got out that there was this great show being done at Warner Brothers because the recording sessions were so much fun.
Yeah,
and you made that possible.
I think that was, again, as much as we'd love to take the credit for that, I think because it was our first experience and no one was telling us no. We just went out and had fun, and we were in love with the property itself. So,
Well, actually, people told us no all the time, but we just said we're going to do it anyway.
We put together some split screen videos, so you will get to see what the old version, what we started with on remastering, and what we finished with. I think you'll figure out quickly the old stuff's on the left, new is on the right. But just in case you're dyslexic. Josh, could we, and in Diane's honor, I'm going to start with one that puts a little bit of a spotlight on Poison Ivy. So, Josh, cue up, almost got him.
Hello, boys. Get me an herbal tea and deal me in.
Scram, lady. This is a bribe. Why, you little... Poison Ivy.
It's been a long time, Harvey. You're still looking halfway decent.
Half of me wants to strangle you.
And what does the other half want?
To hit you with a truck.
We used to date.
What brings such a dainty dove to this dismal den?
Running from the law. And the Batman, too, of course.
Of course. Likewise. You got it. You're safe here. You think one of us would have got him by now? I've come the closest.
Are you kidding? I was the one who nearly...
Nobody's come closer to snuffing the Batman than me. Get out of my face.
The fact of the matter is, we each have an almost Gotham. Let's hear yours anyway. I'd say ladies first, but since we don't have any, we'll start with you, Pam.
All right. This happened last Halloween.
The guy getting tossed around and beaten in the background in the shadow, is that in the script or is that something somebody added as you were going?
Actually, Bruce and I were just joking about that Glenn Murakami, who you may know from his work through the years of animation and comics, that was literally a sequence that he boarded, one of the first things he did for us on Batman Animated. And Bruce just mentioned that Glenn, I guess, hung on to his original storyboard test that he did for us to see that he could work on the show. So that business was added by Glenn. He brought incredible, elements to the show, but came in as literally as a kid when he started. So what you just looked at was one of his first attempts boarding for the series. Just a sign of things to come from him.
Diane,
Yes?
how did you land the role and who were you channeling for that?
Oh, when I was asked to audition for this, I saw a brilliant a PhD, Pamela Isley, as Dr. Pamela Isley, and a sex symbol that looked a little bit like Tinker Bell on adult hormones. So I looked at that, and I had done a lot of commercial work, and I was always either the very intelligent spokesperson who sounded like she knew what she was talking about, or a lot of cosmetic kind of things, you know, perfumes. And so I said to myself, I think if I use my cosmetic voice and then also make her just a little smart at the same time, I can do this thing.
We're pretty excited because this is the first time we've had Diane on a BTAS panel, so. Do you have a green thumb?
No, I have a black thumb.
Me too, it's okay.
So Andrea Romano would have loved to be here, but instead she's been texting me photos from all over Italy. But she did relate a story just last week about a friend who had passed away, Anthony Barneo, who was her old college roommate, and he passed away in early September. He is quite possibly the most secret Batman the Animated Series hero ever. And Kevin, can you explain the relationship he builds?
I didn't know Anthony Barneo. I had never heard his name. And Warner Brothers was casting this show, and I had a voiceover agent, and he said, they've asked for you to go in and read for the role of Batman. And I didn't even know Batman had never been an animated show, which I remember Bruce was quite shocked at, that anyone could be that stupid. And you said, what is your background on Batman? I said, well, I know the Adam West show. And you went, no. We love Adam West, but that's not what we're doing. So I was really being brought up to speed. Well, it turns out that Andrea had seen, I think, 500 people or something like that. She'd seen a few hundred people for a while and had been unable to find just the right sound they were looking for. And I found out years later that a man named Anthony Barneo, who was a casting agent in New York, because I'm from New York, I grew up here. West Side, let's hear it for the West Side. I went to Juilliard, I worked in the theater, I worked at the Public Theater. And Anthony was one of the casting people at the Public Theater. I didn't know that. So he knew my work from the classics, my Shakespearean days. And he thought that'd be great for Batman, so he was the one who recommended me to Andrea. I never knew this. And it was because of my classical background, he thought it would be great for Batman. Isn't that interesting? And he was right. And oddly enough, Andrea Romano's from New York. She was born a day after me, and just a few miles from where I was born.
Wow.
Coincidence? I don't know.
And I just moved to New York.
I've been to New York.
I'm in New York right now.
So we have a clip with 3 of the 4 people on stage doing voices, and I thought we might want to cue that up just to give them a little spotlight. So Josh, can you show us chemistry?
Everything's changed for me these last few weeks. The pain of my parents' deaths, it's still there, but it seems smaller. And there's a new feeling now.
Which would be?
It's a lightness, a sense that things will work out for the best.
It's called happiness.
Whatever it is, I like it. I've asked Susan to marry me. She's accepted. She's everything I need. She's perfect.
There's just one problem. That. How you gonna keep it from her?
I won't have to. I've always assumed that sooner or later the 3 of you would get all this. Well, it's gonna be sooner. I'm not going to be Batman anymore.
Whatever it is, I like it. I like that vibe. That's a good line.
That's a good one. Do any of you 4 have a favorite line you got to utter through the series? Kevin's about to break into song.
Am I blue? Am I blue? Ain't these tears in these eyes telling you there was a time I was her only one. Now I'm the sad and lonely one. Lonely.
Spider-Man on Broadway was a bomb, but I say Batman on Broadway.
Heck with that, I want to see him as King George in Hamilton.
You'll be back.
Tara?
I'm gonna have to buy the box set 'cause I don't remember the lines. But my favorite episode was Girls' Night Out. I love that episode so much. Just early on, chick power. Sorry. Yeah, that was hot. I liked it.
Favorite line or episode? How's that?
I don't remember the line, but I remember in the episode when Harley and Ivy, when Ivy told Harley that you do not allow a man to talk to you like that or treat you that way. I wish I had the exact line, but when I've only been doing the Comic Cons a couple of years now, and young women come up to me with tears pouring down their face saying, "You don't know what that episode did for me. I stopped taking the abuse," you know, stuff like that. I don't mean to get too serious here, but just, wow.
Do any of you have a notable first impression of each other when you first got in a booth?
Well, I said, when Tara got in the booth, I said, "You don't look like the other bad girl."
Yeah.
I was, to be honest, I was pretty intimidated when I first got in the booth because I'd never done any of this before. I kept expecting people to judge me, and it took me a while to get past that, I think.
You passed.
I was terrified, but not because it was my first gig, because the room was so damn impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, to sit between him and Hamill, I was like pinching myself, and Arlene Sorkin, and it was an extraordinary cast. Every week they were so conscientious about which actor to bring in to play these roles, and every single record I would pinch myself. And I do remember thinking, I'm in the presence of greatness, for sure, every time.
I was kind of starstruck. I've been in the business quite a while, but I mean, Mark Hamill, Ephraim Zimbalist Jr., Paul Williams over here, it's like, oh, these are my idols, and it was just a joy.
And they were also damn good, too.
Oh, so
not always do people that do primarily we've all done on camera, but not every on-camera person can do voiceover. It's like asking a tap dancer if they do ballet. And we all know Hamill from Star Wars, and he opens his mouth as Joker, and you're like, holy crap, like, amazing.
Funny.
And generous as an actor. Both of you, I mean, all of you, like, it was very collaborative, and you felt like you were home when you were doing this series.
Oh, Harley.
And Diane and I had already done a series together, so we were already really good friends, so it was really nice to do that again.
Oh, and may I just say a hello from a very dear friend of mine, Arlene Sorkin, who wishes she could be there. Everybody, she's been ill, and she can't do this, but she loves everyone, so thank you.
Okay, so how about this? And maybe there's a very obvious answer, but I'm looking for something different. The fans will get this beautiful box set on October 3rd, which is the day before Halloween. So what would be the perfect episode to watch on Halloween?
That episode we were just watching has a Halloween sequence in it. Poison Ivy and the Pumpkin Patch.
Yeah.
And almost got him. Yeah. Scarecrow episodes. I don't know. That was one of my favorites. Was Over the Edge. It's not really a Halloween episode, but back with guys in it, so that was pretty cool.
Spoiler! That was a good one.
That was a good one. I don't know. We weren't allowed to go too scary, and notoriously I wanted to do an episode where Batman gets turned into a vampire, and Fox Kids said, no, you aren't going to do that. So that would have been a good one.
Any of the Joker episodes, he's always, it seems to be dressed for Halloween and in the Halloween spirit, so Joker away.
All right. So there's a terrific documentary on this. It's 90 minutes long. It's called The Heart of Batman. Has interviews with 36 members of the cast and crew. It's truly impressive. Covers everything. 26 years in the making. God, I thought that'd be funnier. We want to show you a clip of it. It's the beginning of the villains segment. So, and I think you all have a great appreciation for the Batman the Animated Series villains, yes? Josh, can we cue up part of Batman?
Mr. Freeze has never been more understandable, more relatable to.
They found a humanness in the villains. They found a why, and they let us know the why.
How much can you feel for a character like Victor Freeze? Can you empathize with him?
can you love a character like Harley Quinn who makes bad decisions and still keeps going back to this maniac? Can you empathize a little bit with the Riddler and his ongoing need to try and prove himself over Batman?
The idea is to make every character human, even the bad guys. Part of that was Paul, part of that was Alan, and part of it was the two of them made sure that they had a lot of writers who were inclined to take the characters seriously and not write in stereotypes. You know, not have just, you know, some crazy villain doing crazy stuff. The villains wanted things. They wanted human things.
Those make you care about the characters a little bit more, and you know, it's important because that sets it up for the next generation. They can take it a step further and to make the characters a little more human, a little more funny, a little more interesting.
In our show, we were able to end something without necessarily a happy ending. The villain gets his comeuppance, but because we've related to the character and we felt sorry for them, it's a tragedy. Again, very noir, very, very noir.
All the villains are not just treated as like toss-away characters.
It was a soap opera, and it opened up the possibilities of animation not just being for children, that you could really get involved into the characters.
Harvey Dent, that was such a great character. One of the fastest storyboards I've ever done was the ending of that one, where Grace is coming down the hallway and he screams. It's Richard Mall doing that death-defying scream. When I saw that played in an audience at a convention once, and at the end, when Grace goes, "Harvey," and he turns to the camera, I heard this girl in the audience just started sobbing uncontrollably. Like it is, it's so sad, it's so tragic.
Villains suffer not because they're villains, they suffer because of something they wanted. And it's not just some cheerful, happy ending usually.
Goodbye, Grace.
Lauren?
Yes.
What's with the beard?
What is with the beard?
Well, this isn't mine. This is on loan from Mark Hamill. What do you think? Yes or no? I'll keep it.
It's Dick Grayson's latest evolution is night beard.
Lauren, what's the one question you're asked most often?
Oh, wow. We've been doing Comic-Cons all over the country, Tara and Diane and Kevin and I, and I'll tell you, over and over and over, the question is, with all of the 1980s reboots, how come there aren't new episodes of the show being done?
Yes!
Do you guys want that?
And the only way I can answer that is, Bruce?
Yeah, Bruce! Take all my money!
Preaching to the choir.
Hand drawn!
Yeah.
Was there a most surprising guest voice?
Surprising what? Guest voice?
Guest voice.
Boy, I don't know, there were so many good ones. I mean, besides everybody here, I mean, some of them, they were exactly what we wanted. I mean, when we cast like Michael Ansara as Mr. Freeze, like, he was exactly what I wanted. When he was available, he was just as awesome as I hoped he would be. Paul Williams is the same way. I was a big fan of his since like The Phantom of the Paradise and all those other, you know, top 40 hits. And he was great. I don't know.
John Glover.
John Glover was awesome. Yeah. I'll tell you who. Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. I have said this before, but it's true. I did not want him to play Alfred. He was not my first choice, because we originally had an actor named Clive Revel playing Alfred, and he was great, but then he decided he was going to go on summer stop for like, half a year, and we were like, okay, so we have to find a new Alfred. And then our executive producer, Tom Ruger, said, we had a bunch of other guys audition, and Ephraim was in there, and Tom said, I think you should cast Ephraim, because he's the biggest star. And I went, oh, but I don't care if he's the biggest star, I just want somebody who's like, sounds really British. And he was really great. I mean, and over time, working with him, it was like the sweetest man.
Yeah.
I mean, he was
Darling.
he was like your grandpa. He was like such a wonderful person.
Yeah.
And he was awesome as Ephraim, so I was absolutely wrong about Ephraim.
I think Adam West coming in for Grey Ghost. Not only a treat to meet him, but the fact that he was not offended by the storyline, and it was he was not only professional, but I thought brought authenticity to that character, and really a unique, wonderful episode.
I have a question. Had you seen Mark as the trickster before you cast him as Joker?
No, I had heard that he had played the trickster, but I did not see the episode before I had no idea he was going to be.
Because I thought it was so weird that Luke Skywalker was going to do Joker.
You know?
But then recently I've seen the trickster stuff.
Right,
I thought,
right.
oh, I wonder if Bruce saw that. Because...
No, and he's quite different as the trickster. He's quite different.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, he doesn't do
that
Mid-Atlantic voice or anything.
Dark side.
Yeah. But that was a total shocker actually. Yeah, that Mark would be our Joker. I would not have put money on him nailing it, but he was awesome.
He's awesome. You're in the booth with him. I'm telling you, it's a dangerous place to be. Because it's a small room, if we're doing the game stuff, it's smaller. And he's like Jim Carrey. He's got that rubbery kind of face. And he's like, hey, Daddy. And it's like, it takes over him, and there's all this spit coming at you.
His laugh always got me, every time. It was so good.
He's so incredible.
And on top of that, he's so nice.
Oh, he's the sweetest guy.
Nicest guy.
You know what I mean? He inhabits the whole thing.
Yes.
His whole body transformed.
Oh, well, you do too, FYI.
Thanks. I've been at the gym a lot.
You know what was wonderful about that room and about doing the show at that time was it was an ensemble show. Nowadays, a lot of people, record their lines individually and then they put the show together. This was like old radio stuff. There was a room with an arc of microphones. We could look at each other. We could react to each other. We're all actors. We're all trained actors. And I think that sense of continuity and people actually talking to each other really shows up in the show.
Oh, yeah.
We were all from the theater, all of us theater backgrounds, so it was like doing a play, it really was.
Yeah.
Acting is as much about reacting as it is acting, and when the other person's there for you to act off of, it affects what you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
You can't
And
help
listening,
it.
right, Kevin?
Listening. Half of acting is listening.
And it was just really fun to actually just stop and look at the cast sometimes, because it was always really weirdly eclectic. I remember one time we had the Reanimator on one side, and on the other end was Captain Parmenter from F Troop. It was like, it was crazy. It was Jeffrey Combs and Ken Barry, and all these awesome people in between. It was just like, wow, how'd you get? That's a mix I never would have thought would be in the same room together. So.
Well, all that talk about Mark Hamill, I think we might want to look at a little piece
Yes.
of Laughing Fish. Josh. Go with it, Josh.
Now this fella here came with his own grin. See the resemblance? And check out my catch of the day.
I didn't need no back computer to tell me that weird-looking minnow came from an aquarium.
Yes, well, this is all tremendously boring. Of course, I can always amuse myself watching old Harv give my shark indigestion.
Wait! Let him go. I'm the one you're after.
Gee, and let my little guppy go hungry? I don't know. What do you think we can do about that?
I was on the internet a few weeks ago. Well, I'm on the internet every minute of the day. Who we kidding? But and you too. I know. I see the reactions on Twitter. But I found this shirt I could not resist buying, and so as a gift to Kevin Conroy.
If you had a strong one, I'm not putting it on right now.
I'm Batman, damn it.
Oh, give it one. Kevin, do it. Do it. Yes.
I am vengeance. I am the night. I am Batman!
I'm selling this right now.
We also brought gifts for you, courtesy of Warner Brothers Consumer Products. If you look in front of these fine actors, you'll see their characters in beautiful little statuettes.
Wait, these are not for us?
No, they're for the audience.
Oh, I don't know where mine went.
Gift for me.
I might know someone that can get you one of those.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Vanna, show them the lovely
So.
pattern.
You got those babies, and I have a couple of these little guys. Nobody can see it. It's a Batmobile Hot Wheels. Apparently there's one less going to be available now. That's good. So, if you want to line up for questions, we'll take them. As usual, follow the rules. 1, be respectful. 2, Tara's not giving you a kiss. Don't ask for it. 3, Bruce isn't giving you a kiss either. 4, say your name, and I know what else you're going to say with it, so go ahead. Start it off. You over there, far side.
My name is Evan, and a lot of people always pick their favorite Batman as one of the live actions, but Mr. Conroy, you're mine.
Oh, thank you.
Looks change, but voices endure, as you've all just shown us. But if you were, and this is for any of you, going to be in a live action Batman movie, which film would you have wanted to have been in?
Oh, wow. That's hard.
Well, Christopher Nolan is one of my favorite actors of all time, so that's kind of.
Yeah, any of the Christopher Nolan films would be great. Great. Anyone else?
Over here.
Hi guys, how you doing? My name is Justin from the Bronx. I'm going to be very quick about this. First of all, Tara, love you.
Love you too, cutie.
To everyone in the cast, you guys are the best. You guys are my childhood. We all thank you for making this creation, and it's going to come for future generations.
Thank you.
And my question is to Kevin. I mean, I would have asked you and Mark, but Kevin, I want to ask. If you and Mark had done a real-life Batman movie, would you have portrayed the Batman any different than you do in the animated series?
No. I mean, I think a misconception is that voice acting is something other than acting. Voice acting is acting. And you only have your voice to create a three-dimensional character, you know? But it's acting. So the thing that makes Mark so incredible is he gets all those colors and all those nuances, the darks and the lights, in that character just using his voice. So, no, I would approach the character exactly the same way. I approach him the way I would approach any acting challenge, which I think has been the key into the character for me, is that the Batman identity is his true identity, and that Bruce Wayne is the performance. That's always been my kind of, you know, actors always look for kind of a hook into something. That's always been my hook into him. And I'd do the same thing if I was doing live action.
Wonderful, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, one more time. We know you love them. You're here. We want to give everybody a chance to ask a question. So you don't need a compliment. You're already here, and that's the compliment. Just ask the question, please.
Hi, I'm Nishad. I was just wondering, what was the hardest part of working on the Batman animated series?
What was the hardest part?
Almost every part of it was hard. I mean,
Was it hard to come up with story ideas?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, some of them were based directly on comics, like the Laughing Fish episode. That was one that we kind of crammed we did a mashup of two separate comic stories together. But a lot of them were started from scratch. But it was a lot of work. I would have to say, fortunately, Eric and I were 30 years old when we first started that show, so we actually had a lot more energy. We could put in a lot more hours and stay there till 4 o'clock in the morning, as my wife vividly remembers one night. Yeah, it was difficult. I mean, it was a lot of fun. I mean, it was a super blast, and we had a great crew, and we had all these awesome people to work with, the actors. But it was a lot of work.
Well, it's not, and again, the physical amount of required to produce an episode, along with dealing with a crew and a studio and merchandising and advertising and
just the politics
network,
of it.
All of that's part of the process.
Yeah.
We only get to see the end result, which is fantastic, but yeah, it's a mountain of work, and we were fortunate that, as Bruce said, we were young, ambitious, and we had a crew of incredibly talented people that were equally passionate about what we were doing. Along with the cast, it was, just all things lined up for us. It was quite a pleasure, even though it was a mountain to climb.
I mean, it was nerve-wracking for the first year, because almost every single day, Eric and I went into the office thinking that we were going to get fired, because we were ruffling feathers every which way with the writers and with the network and with even people that our in-house crew, because we would say, oh yeah, we want to paint this crowd scene, we want to paint the characters right onto the background so that they would look better, and they would say, well, you can't do that. You have to. The character is going to be on an animated cell. That's how it's done. It's like, well, that's not going to look as good as painting it. So we said we were just going to go ahead and do it. But so every step of the way, it was just like, for sure, we thought we were going to get fired, but we didn't, and the show came out great.
Okay, over here.
Hi, my name is Patrick. This question is mainly for Kevin, but also Bruce, if you want to chime in. The best thing I thought, Kevin, about your performance as Batman, which nobody has done before in capturing the entire idea that Bruce Wayne is the mask, is the fact that in scenes where you were Bruce without the costume on, with only people who knew the secret identity, you didn't use your Bruce Wayne voice. You used your Batman voice, even though you weren't in costume.
Right.
Was that your decision in the recording booth?
Well, we would talk that through. Remember, Andrea that's where you need a really good voice director, Andrea, to keep track of who's in the room, who knows, who doesn't.
Right.
Are you alone? And that's a good thing you picked up on. That even though he's in his business suit, if there's no one else in the room, he goes into the Batman identity, because that's who he naturally is.
Right.
But as soon as someone else comes in, it's Bruce Wayne. Yeah.
Awesome job.
Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Alex. I was wondering what it's like to know how your voice performances affects, future performances for shows or video games, because you guys really set the baseline for what characters should be for other things.
Yeah, you guys did set the bar.
Well, I was the first actor to ever voice Nightwing, so that was a big honor. So that was a thrill. And to be able to be in both versions of the show and transition from Robin to Nightwing, and I'm the only actor who ever got to do that, so I'm very proud of that.
Okay, over here. Thanks,
I
Alex.
was not the first Batgirl or Harley, and so I knew stepping into those boots were some pretty daunting boots. And when I was cast as Batgirl, it's really the only show I do that's my own voice and me, so it felt very true the whole time. And this entire series worked because it was real life. It was very real and dark, which is absolutely my favorite version of Batman, so I'm so happy to be a part of it. And whenever we hear people saying thank you for our childhood, we're so touched. And I think our predecessors didn't know how loved they were before the internet, so when you guys show the love, we love you right back for it. And when we hear like you got me through depression or my parents' divorce or whatever it was, we take that responsibility really, really like to heart. And sometimes online when like someone else is Batgirl or Harley or whatever else is Batman, and they're like, no, we only hear you guys. Or when I read a comic, we hear you guys. And honestly, that touches us so much. So thank you for that.
And I created the Poison Ivy voice, and I did it for many years, and then others took over. I have no idea how they're doing. I was really glad to do the first one. You know, good enough for me.
And I think that in my case, my naivety when I first approached the role enabled me a lot. I had no preconceptions at all. So I was totally free to just use my imagination to come up with a sound. So I didn't feel like I was living up to any image I had. I was sort of just improvising in that audition with Bruce.
All right, thank you, Alex. Over here.
Hi, my name is Ray, and my question is to the architect. If you had one more episode, 2 hours, same cast, what would be the story? And by the way, that Batman toy looks amazing.
I can't tell you that, because what if it would happen someday? Then it would be, spoilers.
Thank you, Ray. How about over here?
Hi, my name is Ian from Brooklyn. Question mainly for Bruce and Eric. Especially as the remaster comes out, is there a specific redesign in between the seasons that you prefer over the original? And are there any of the originals that you prefer over the redesign?
Well, Eric wasn't involved in the redesign, so he's got a completely different take on it than I do, so I want to hear what he has to say.
Well, I'll put it this way. Out of everything that I was involved with on this series, the first 65 and Mask of the Phantasm, Sub-Zero, there's so much I would like to go back in and finesse that we didn't get the opportunity to. The remastering is such an honor, and at the same time it's kind of difficult for me to look at because there's so many things I would like to go back and retreat. But so as far as redesign goes, I think Bruce is a better one to answer that question. Mine would be just an opportunity to do it again and do it with all the new tools that we have to make it even prettier.
I'll tell you one redesign that I think is undoubtedly better is the Scarecrow. I like the Scarecrow from the second season better, the second series better. There's some, like the Joker, I don't think that the redesign worked very well on him, but I don't really like the original one either. I think the one that we did for the flashback in Return of the Joker is the best one.
All right, thank you, Ian. How about over here?
Hi, my name is Claudia from Queens. So my question is for everybody, or whoever wants to answer. How has Batman the Animated Series affected and inspired your lives on a personal level?
I'll jump in on that one. Because I actually, again, worked with Warner's and with Bruce for that 5-year period with Batman, and then I moved on in my career, and anything that I've had in my career has been based purely on my experience on Batman and on all levels, dealing with people, you know, coming of age in my career, just discovering what I was capable of and how to work with talent and be in respect of incredible talent that I got to work with and still do. So it's part of my life. It started out as a job, and it literally has become part of my life and always will be. So I'm very grateful, and everything that I literally have in my professional life was absolutely because of Batman.
Wow. Ditto. Life is what happens to you while you're busy making other plans. You know what I mean?
True.
I never planned on doing this. And it ended up being the most incredible thing I could do. I feel very lucky.
I mean, for me, when I was a little girl, I collected Batgirl stuff, and I had comics, and I was such a big fan of the show, and to get to play her, I was, like I said, pinching myself. I still do. Like, I don't know what horseshoe I was born under to play Batgirl and Harley and Raven and Bubbles and all these amazing, strong female characters. And I bring them with me everywhere I go, and to be able to give little girls a strong female role model is something so extraordinary, and I think about it all the time, especially now in this time where women are really fighting for their voices, and I have Batgirl with me, and sometimes a little Harley these days, pretty much every day.
You know, I'm gonna do a completely different spin on that. When I did this show, first of all, as a villain, I wasn't in every show, obviously, so I didn't do all of the episodes that these people did. It was a job. It was a job, a lovely job. I enjoyed the job. It was wonderful. It went on for, 8, 9, 10 years? Delightful. Oh, show up that day? Fine, great. It was a job. I had other jobs, different cartoons, different things, okay? And I kind of forgot about it. And I really, no, that's an actor's life. You go from one job to the next. The impact it's had on me, I had no idea you guys were out there. I can't tell you how moved I was to find out that you actually, somebody said, you have a fan base, do you know that? I went, what? I'm an anonymous voice actor, what do you mean? And so it's meant, and then also meeting all of you wonderful people at the cons, and like Tara, seeing the influence that the characters had, and just being so moved. You're darling. All of you are wonderful. I love you. I would take you home if I could. I'm really in love. Thank you.
Good question, Charlie. We got 3.5 minutes to go. Let's see if we can get a couple of questions in.
This is actually going to be our second to last question.
Hi, my name is Elijah. Sorry I cut you off. My name is Elijah from Queens. I know majority of the cast was brought back for the Killing Joke movie, but when it was released, it got a lot of backlash from the fans. Some loved it, some didn't. So I want to know from the voice actors, what was your take on the film, and what was your take on the backlash from the fans?
I love that movie so much.
Yeah, I did too.
I loved it so much. And by the way, kudos to these guys. It looked exactly like the comic. It looked exactly like the book. So if you were a fan of the book and you saw the movie, you wouldn't be disappointed. And of course it was too short, so I'm not disappointed that I got a little extra time.
Right.
With Batman over there. And we felt really good about it from an acting standpoint, from a story standpoint, and you're always going to get backlash no matter what you do, but overall the fans seem to be pretty on board, and it's honestly one of my most proudest work, and the acting, you are extraordinary. Hamill's extraordinary. His origin story, I don't know about you, I cried. Like, it was so well done.
The original story is too small for a full-length movie, and then I think the options were stretch it out, and I think that would have been, kind of ruined it. Or do a prequel, I think we made the right choice. And like you were saying, from an actor's perspective, it gives you so much more to dig your teeth into if you have a background to look back on and to research. So I actually thought it was a great movie. And I thought Mark's performance was unbelievable.
I guess we got the last question over here. Freddie from Jersey. So my question is pre-internet. You basically touched upon it right before. When did you realize that you guys had a thing that this is going to be great, this is going to be successful? At what point did you realize that?
When they asked you to come in and work.
It's a funny story, actually. I was gonna mail some mail in a Hollywood post office at 5 a.m. on my way to the studio. It was so dark outside. I pull into this parking lot. All I have is my mail in my hand. I run from my car to the mailbox, and there's this pile of rags on the side of the road. And I go, "Hey, buddy, you got $1?" And I looked and I realized there was a person under the rags. And I said, "All I have is my mail. I'm sorry, I don't have anything." He said, "Oh my God, you're Kevin Conroy." Did he see my mail? And then I thought, is this an actor that I worked with? Is this how bad it gets? Is this my future that I'm staring at? Because all this was going through my mind, and I went, yeah. He said, "You're Kevin you're Batman." I said, "How do you know that?" He said, "Everybody knows who's Batman." Come on, you know what I want you to do? I am vengeance. It's 5 in the morning, it's dark. I said, "I am vengeance." He said, "Oh yeah, Batman, come on." "I am the night." I went, "I am the night." He said, "Bring it home, bring it home." I said, "I am Batman." And we heard from the dark, "Shut the fuck up." That's the day I went home and I called Andrea and I said, "I think we've got a hit."
You've never told that story. I like that story.
I've never heard the button to that story. Okay. That's the way I wanted to send out this panel. Batman, the complete animated series. Good job. All right, I want you to thank Diane Pershing, we'll shoot a couple of pictures of the group in front of you. But at the end, I do need Michard, Ian, Claudia, Patrick, and Freddie, as well as Evan, Justin, Alex, and Ray over there. But not till we shoot them.
I'll be your